What's up, college baseball fans? Welcome to the weekend number one recap episode of the 11.7 podcast. If you are new, we're going to talk about all the action that happened, all the big storylines, all the fun events that happened from weekend number one. And if you stay with us until the end, we will preview the midweek, really loaded midweek slate, which is nice for going into weekend number two. First, I want to shout out our sponsor, our premier sponsor, Home Field Apparel. Go to their website, homefieldapparel.com. They have all of the retro, vintage, officially licensed NCAA merchandise and apparel. Really big for us. They helped Jack get to Arizona this weekend. And if you're watching the YouTube, you can see Jack is currently in an airport this morning, flew back. So first podcast ever being recorded inside of a terminal of an airport. So big news there. But if you use our promo code CWS25, we have updated it. You get 15% off and, support them. They've supported us really well the last 2 years, and let's give back to them. Anyways, so kind of my list for today. We released our mid-major top 25. We'll go over that. We will also talk about Jack and his experience in Arizona, getting to watch teams like Austin Peay, Grand Canyon, Indiana, Ohio State, Xavier, like just everybody in and around the Arizona area. We'll talk about some surprise teams, both good and bad. Teams that surprised us how good they played, and some teams that surprised us on how bad they played. We'll jump around to the different tournaments: Puerto Rico, Shriners Classic, and Arlington, and then we will talk about the midweek after that. So it should be fun. Anyways, Jack, lead us off. I know you're in the airport right now. Just in case your Wi-Fi cuts out or you need to leave early, we want the people to know about your experience in Arizona. Tell them who you saw, who impressed you, and just give them the whole rundown.
Give you a Spark Notes version. Well, first off, I'd like to thank you for the intro. I don't want to say I'm groundbreaking and a trailblazer, but yes, at a Terminal C here in the Charleston Airport, I'm very honored to be joining the gentleman. But you're battling through quite the illness, so we want a little round of applause for the boy for making it happen today. Shout out to Big Ben the Needle. All right, Arizona. First three things. Arizona, the frequency that people live on, big fan. Second, Raising Cane's open until 2 a.m. in Phoenix. Big fan. Thirdly, Phoenix has a freaking Waffle House. 3 for 3, 5-star experience from a baseball standpoint. The three things that jumped out at me. RJ Austin is a first-rounder. Vanderbilt has the next Vandy superstar just right there hitting the top of their lineup. He is a freak, man. Set the tone with a double on the first pitch of the season against Grand Canyon and a sellout crowd. Place was bumping. That was kind of leads me into my second thing. We speak about the Sun Belt often and how much their fans care, and rightfully so. East Carolina in that conversation. It's time to start putting some love on Grand Canyon too, man. What Coach Walls is doing out there, 5,400 people at that game against Vanderbilt, MLB Network crowd, and you're going, oh, of course they get up for Vanderbilt. They do it every single home game. There was simultaneously a softball game going on at the exact same time, sold out as well. So the school spirit, the passion around athletics out there was really, really cool to be around. And then thirdly, bang, go damn Cuffs. Austin Peay with a massive win last night against Grand Canyon, who I bragged on. But, man, it was a loaded slate from teams like Seton Hall to San Diego State. Obviously, man, the story of Nebraska on Saturday night, I'm not sure there's a fan base that traveled better across the country all weekend than Big Red Nation. Obviously, a really emotional win on Saturday night for them, but they're a true bona fide top 25 team. And we haven't even talked about maybe the mid-major darling that you guys have been on the ride with for the last 7 years, Ben, and that's UC Irvine. What Coach Orloff is building out west is nothing short of spectacular, and it's not – they don't want the praise yet. Like, they expect to go out and beat the likes of Vanderbilt and Nebraska. Like, they do this. Hey, we do this. They let a game get away from – they felt like they should have beat Vanderbilt yesterday at noon Western time. But – what he has, Ben, we joked about it. I go into it East Coast bias. So, Coach, educate me. Let's go. I need that West Coast exposure. And I think I went into it with this idea of It's going to be a lot of moving base runners. It's going to be a lot of bunting, first and thirds. They're going to play clean defense. Guys, they have a legit high school football team. Like, they look like, to me, a 7A Texas high school football team. It's the best way I can describe it. They have a bunch of stud former all-region Mike linebackers and tight ends playing freaking baseball out west. They are nasty. So physical. Chase Call in the outfield for them. Big league pedigree. So much of the conversations will be about Anthony Martinez this year, but it should probably be about the guy that's going to protect him in the heart of that lineup. So I know I rambled, and that's not much of a Spark Notes, but there's so many teams to brag on that did some really impressive stuff in opening weekend.
100%. I'm glad you touched on RJ Austin from Vanderbilt. Talk about a guy that has always been a good college player, but this felt like the first time that he stepped into that, oh my God, this guy could be a 10-year major leaguer. He's got a little bit of Mookie Betts in him where he's versatile, can play anywhere on the field. Like last year, he was playing first base. But to have him leading off games, taking the first pitch 430 feet to dead center for a home run, I mean, it's special to watch him develop and become somebody that a lot of people viewed as like a good college player that would play in the minors and maybe get a shot in pro ball to, oh, this guy could be an all-star. Like he's that talented. So, and then on top of that, UC Irvine, got to watch them play a lot on TV. That's a team that could make it to Omaha. And it wouldn't be a Cinderella story at all. Like they would fit right in. You said it best. They look like a high school football team, which is funny because that might sound like an insult, but it's not. Like, you're talking about just big buff, former Mike linebackers and tight ends. Like that's what they look like. They hit for power. Again, it's not the stereotypical West Coast style baseball, and they're going to be just fine. Dimitri, any thoughts you want to add there to Jack's West Coast trip before we move on?
I just wanted to add on UC Irvine. I mean, we could be having a totally different conversation if they just don't give up a grand slam to Riley Nelson of Vanderbilt. I think that was his first career D1 home run, so big time moment for him to get his feet wet really quickly. But if Irvine wins that game, we're having a totally different conversation right now about how they could easily be the number one team, mid-major team in the country, right there with Dallas Baptist. But the only other thing I was going to say is Jack.
Oh, no, your internet cut out again.
Yeah,
Lost you for a second. Try to hop back in. Try to fix your internet because we missed the very last bit of what you were going to say. And while you're hopping out, I want to talk about a team that you got to see play that passed the eyeball test to a T, like a 10 out of 10 on the eyeball test, and that's Arizona State. Let's talk about what Coach Bloomquist is doing at Arizona State. That team could win a national championship. I know they didn't pitch the ball that well. They ended up sweeping Ohio State, and all of them were high-scoring games. But when you talk about star power and freak athletes and a team that has a desire to win baseball games, Arizona State passes the eyeball test for me. Like that is a team that I think could make it to Omaha and host a regional. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. Arizona State passed the eyeball test.
Yeah, I got to go run out there and check out BP and getting to talk with Ohio State and Coach Hare. Obviously, having the opportunity to broadcast their games next week. I didn't really know what to expect from Arizona State. Like, you just didn't really know. Those games on Friday and Saturday were so back and forth and such a roller coaster. Everything they do is it's very much so reminding me of Vanderbilt, like where everything was very calculated, meticulous in warm-ups, roll right into the first pitch. To your point, right? National championship team, sure, I'm with you. I'll pump the brakes and just say, hey, I think that this is a team where if the Big 12 is as wide open as we kind of think it is this year, this opening weekend, they absolutely let you know that they're going to be a contender.
Yeah. And I think Brandon Compton should be high up on a lot of people's Golden Spikes watch list. He's somebody that's a walking 115-mile-an-hour exit velo. Everything he hit was squared up. He looks the part, had the walk-off on Saturday, a few home runs on the weekend, and he's the reigning Pac-12 freshman of the year. So he's got the pedigree to go with it.
Guy, you know what I love the most is we get to see Arizona State, we get to see UCLA, we get to see Arizona all on ESPN Plus now. No more. The whole country is going to actually become really familiar because it's going to be finally easy to watch these games. Not everyone's going to go buy a Pac-12 network subscription. So now you've got all these teams on ESPN Plus. You're gonna see the tone, the tune, the attitude towards some of these teams going to really flip 180 degrees because now they can watch Arizona State. The broadcast, big league, immaculate broadcast, beautiful field. They're going to understand like how good these teams are going to be. I think Arizona State's a top 25 team that I don't think I saw a single top 25 with them in it this morning. Ohio State, I thought, yeah, they got swept, but I thought that was a completely different looking team than the Ohio State I'm used to seeing in the past. They couldn't pitch it late in the game, but they hit, they competed. I think there were like 12, 13 lead changes all weekend. They were back and forth. It could have easily been an Ohio State series win. Got out of control on Sunday, but I'm really impressed with both teams. I think Arizona State, Isaiah Jackson, it's going to probably be a first rounder, top 3 round pick for sure. Brandon Compton right there next to him in the outfield. They had Velo in the bullpen. I really like Arizona State.
Yeah, that felt like one of the weekend series that we look back on in May or June, and we're like, wow, both of those teams were good all year long, and we didn't understand what we were witnessing at the time. So, anyways, we'll move on from that.
Hey, one more thing. I was just gonna say, because Ben or Jack said he met Hare. Hey, he's gonna be the dude for that program. Just give him some time to learn his pitching staff and who's gonna come in what situations. I promise you, Ohio State will be at the top upper tier half of the Big Ten when it's all said and done. That team has what it takes. Michigan and Ohio State, Penn State are sleepers that nobody's talking about. They can win the Big Ten.
Before we move on to in my kind of mindless rambling, I get so excited about so many different storylines over the weekend from a guy like John Bay, kind of proving he showed up on the big stage for Austin Peay. But I do want to brag more on the Big Ten. Like, I do think that's the conference that everyone's like really excited to see if they can make that next step and get a team into Omaha this year. Dude, Nebraska and what Coach Bolt is building. Like, I talked about Big Red Nation showing up in waves, and like I guess they have a huge alumni base in the Scottsdale area. Dude, their grit was not more personified than when Tucker Timmerman takes a 104-mile-per-hour comebacker to the face. Timmerman, a nasty bullpen arm for those guys, gets absolutely crushed. He's kind of laying there. It's a little bit of a scary moment. He gets up. He's fist pumping to the crowd. They've got the ice pack over his eye. And I saw it after the game, and I was going to interview him, and I talked to him afterwards. Guys, this was like, it looked like a Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed. Like, I mean, his whole eye was split to the point where I was like, hey, I don't feel comfortable putting this out to the public because, like, God forbid, like, you know, you just don't know, right? And this kid is fired up. They just get this huge win over a Vanderbilt team that they know is going to have our, RPI implications later in the year. But it's not about that. It's about going to legit war with their brothers. And obviously, it's now gone viral over social media, and the kid's obviously doing a lot better. He had surgery. But Tucker Timmerman taking that shot to the head, getting up, firing the boys up. Like, to me, that was a statement moment in the year, and it's kind of proved what Coach Bolt has built with the Cornhuskers. So I didn't want to move on quite yet without bragging on them because they're getting top 25 votes, and they absolutely should because they had that kind of a weekend.
Yeah, and like Swanson having 6 RBIs on Saturday against Vanderbilt, huge. Like a guy that stepped up and won them the game. So big time for them.
Crazy.
Nebraska will be a fun team to watch in the Big Ten. We'll talk about Big Ten a little bit more. Puerto Rico, the Michigan Wolverines, literally coming out of nowhere, sweeping it, going 4-0, beating teams like number 2 Virginia, beating Stetson, Villanova, and the other team that they beat, I can't remember right now. Who? Oh, yeah, Rice. But I'll tell you this, Puerto Rico tournament was fun to watch. It was started at, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. every morning and went all day. The broadcasts were good, and it showed teams like Michigan and Stetson can be very competitive with anybody. UConn was there as well. I don't know. Michigan's 4-0 with the best resume in the country. And now they go and play this coming up weekend against TCU, Kansas State, and Arkansas. So that'll be a huge test for them. But, I mean, shoot. Any thoughts on Michigan for you guys?
I think they had a great weekend. Best resume in the country is kind of a stretch. You saw what the Hook'em Horns did in Dallas. I think Texas could easily went undefeated that weekend. Anyway, besides the point, I think Stetson showed us more than we were expecting. They're better than we expected, and we were pretty high on them. That lineup's going to rake all 56 games this year. Pitching looked pretty good. Virginia, hey, 2-1 weekend, no big deal. I'm not worried about Virginia. They lost a walk-off game against a really hot Michigan team. But it would be cool to see Michigan make it back to Omaha before Eric Bakic's Clemson to Omaha. Food for thought there. Can that happen? So yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things to look forward to with this Michigan team. I think the Big Ten. I'm really high on the Big Ten right now. I think there's a lot of good teams, a lot of talent that are gonna. I think they're gonna make some noise this year.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk Dallas or Arlington, Globe Life Park. Our boy Noah Beanick, who we just brought on, and we'll get him on the show. I asked if he could do the podcast today. Wouldn't really fit his schedule, so he'll come on later this week when we do a weekend series pick'em. We hired Noah Beanick to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes and some gambling stuff for us, but he was there, boots on the ground in Arlington, and he kind of said that, like, honestly, it was like a day-by-day situation for each team. Obviously, every team, all 6 teams are talented. You got to see some signs of weakness from every team, and I think some strengths from every team is the best way to put it. Like Clemson, for example, could score with the best of them, and then gave up a couple innings of I think they had an 8-run inning and a 7-run inning, and kind of got blown out there on Sunday. But they looked really good. Comeback win on Friday, big win Saturday. Dimitri, you hinted at it earlier. Texas, other than that 9th inning against Louisville on Friday night, looked like one of the best teams in the country. There was just a lot to take away from that. I was glad I renewed my Flow Sports subscription so I could watch.
And we bought a Big Ten Network Plus account. We had to. Hey, Ben, did you know Josh Hader is a reliever?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Some people were allegedly saying that we didn't know he was a reliever. He was a starter or something.
I don't know what you're talking about. What is this about?
Ben, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Jerry Spencer from Texas. We compared him to Josh Hader. Someone thought we didn't know that Josh Hader was a reliever, not a starter.
I must have missed that. I didn't see that. But yeah, you're right. Like Jared Spencer.
The one that tweeted it. Come on, big brain. We said Texas found their.
Yeah, we said Randy Johnson.
No, we said Texas found their Josh Hader, and someone goes, "Well, Josh Hader's reliever," and Ben goes, "Oh, no way! I had no idea."
Oh, I forgot about that. This year or last year?
Bro, this was literally Friday when Jared Spencer picked. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Jared Spencer looked sick. He looked disgusting. I mean, that was the most effortless 95, 98 with that little slider he's got going. Texas is going to win a lot of games on Friday. And if you saw what they had the rest of the weekend, you would think this is the top 10 team in the country. And Schloss and the boys might be cooking again.
Yeah, 100%. Their offense was amazing Saturday and Sunday. Like Max Ballou, Gasparito, or however you pronounce his name, Jack's boy, Flores. Like everybody looked good in Texas's lineup, and to put up runs in a big league ballpark like that is huge. Any thoughts there on the other? Like Louisville surprised me a good bit.
I thought they were the statement team of that series. I thought there was a lot of conversation. Hey, they're going to be better. Coach Mack's going to get this thing right. Zion Rose and company, that was a really impressive showing. I felt like in that weekend where you could have turned around and walked out, and if they get swept, you had, Louisville, same thing as last year, like kind of a lot of hype, but we weren't able to execute. I thought that bounce back win against Texas was massive. I think a lot of credit should go to Schloss, but I mean, Max Weiner, the pitching coach here at Texas, if you don't know the name now, you probably should. Man, he's going to get guys in that bullpen, in that rotation, to not necessarily exceed expectations, but he's going to get guys to shove. So we kind of expected that because he's just that good of a coach. But I thought Louisville was kind of the statement team there over the weekend.
Yeah, I think if you would have asked a lot of people around college baseball if what was more likely, Louisville going 2-1 and beating Texas or Arizona going 0-3, I think a lot of people would have said like, oh, I mean, Louisville would go 0-3 and Arizona would go 2-1 based off of like preseason write-ups and hype. That's just my takeaway. Arizona was one of those teams that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Like, what team surprised us? Arizona surprised me. They only put up 3 runs in 3 games total. I thought that offense would be a lot better. What's his name? White. I can't think. Mikey White. Is that his name? Shortstop for Arizona. Had 2 solo home runs, and that was 2 of their 3 runs. They got outscored by a ton. So that was a big surprise for me, was how bad. What are you showing us here?
Read
Oh,
it.
Josh Hader is the closer, not a starter. Wait, really?
That was you.
Was that you that replied?
That was you that said that.
All right. Well, dude, I went through war. All right. Saturday and Sunday. The reason why we're recording on Monday morning here is because I had either food poisoning or the stomach virus and was just out all like half of Saturday, all day Sunday. It was battling for my life. So a lot has happened since that tweet on Friday. Sorry.
Hey, yeah, speaking of the Shriners, I think Texas was a winner. I think Louisville was a winner. I think Arizona. I don't think I'm hitting a panic button on Arizona. Do you remember? I think it was 2 years ago. Somebody went 0-3 that weekend. It ended up making it to a Super or Omaha. I forgot who it was, but I know it happened. Hey, Arizona got punched in the face. They have an opportunity to come back and redeem themselves later or next week, I think it is. But yeah, hey, you lose a couple ball games against the best teams in the country, you get punched in the mouth. They can only go up from here. So I think Arizona should be totally fine. I think people should pump the brakes on them a little bit. They've got San Diego for 3 this weekend at home. Another team that's coming off a rough weekend against TCU. So, like, I think it could be a really good series between 2 teams that are trying to step right back up to the plate. So I wouldn't worry about Arizona, but I think Louisville showed me, hey, McDonald might be back, because we all know Louisville is a walking super regional every year at Omaha.
Yeah, no doubt. So next segment here I have is eyeball test. All right. Like, who passed the eyeball test this week and like who made loud statements? I have a list of 4, and I don't want to take up all of them because I think you guys will hit on some. But I'm going to start with my 4 that just passed the eyeball test with flying colors. I said Arizona State earlier. Yes. North Carolina sweeping Texas Tech, who I still think Texas Tech is going to be a good team this year. Like, I don't know how to put it into words, but that team's different. Like, that North Carolina team, those are professional players on a college team. And you're not going to win on Friday nights against North Carolina. Like, you're just not beating DeCaro. Like, I think he's highly underrated, only a sophomore, only 18 years old as a sophomore, and was just as composed as can be. He looks like a mini Justin Verlander. The offense is fabulous. I think North Carolina is a lock to host a regional and host a super regional and get to Omaha. I love that team. And I usually don't love North Carolina teams. This year I love them.
Hey,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, we'll know a lot about Texas this weekend. They play UC Irvine at home in West Texas. So that would be the massive series, Texas Tech and UC Irvine.
Yeah, Texas Tech, UC Irvine in Lubbock will be good. That'll say a lot about both of those teams. Here's another Texas team, TCU. I know they're playing later today in San Diego for a 4-game series, but to go into San Diego and sweep the weekend, obviously there's a Monday game too, but to sweep the weekend against the Toreros is hard to do. And like, they did it in kind of a dominant fashion. TCU, Kirk Sarlos, Jack's boys, scary group. And they're without their best player too, like their best pitcher. He's getting Tommy John, isn't he?
Ben Abel, right?
Ben Abel. That's crazy. So TCU passed the eyeball test. I was watching those games late at night. They're elite. Good team. And the last team, Cincinnati, passed the eyeball test. Like, you beat Duke once. Okay, cool. You go to extra innings, you lose game 2. All right, well, like they're actually a pretty good team, right? Then you go on Sunday and win 18-5. Like that solidifies yourself as a top 25 team. First time they've ever been ranked in the top 25 in program history for at least D1baseball.com. Big momentum there for Coach Bischel. And remember, he was at Central Michigan when they had those really good Central Michigan teams back in like the late 2010s, early 2020s. So he seems like somebody that might get offered a fat paycheck at the end of this year if Cincinnati does well. But they passed the eyeball test. To go into Duke, beat the number 12 team in the country 2 out of 3 in like a convincing fashion, good for Cincinnati. Do you guys want to add any teams to the eyeball test?
Santa Barbara, I mean, we all knew they were good, so not much of an eyeball test to pass. But the amount of arms they brought out that were just 94, 95 plus was unbelievable. Campbell looked not great. They didn't look very good. But Santa Barbara put up double-digit runs, which they never do. They picked the hell out of the ball. I think UC Irvine and Santa Barbara could be a 1A and 1B in the Big West. I mean, one or both could potentially host. They're that good. They are that good. I'm not sure what's going on with Tyler Bremner. I haven't heard any news. He came out early Friday. That's probably the best arm in the country besides Jamie Arnold. So Santa Barbara passed the eyeball test. Another West Coast team. I don't even know if they're West Coast. They're just an island team. Hawaii, 4-game sweep of Marshall. I mean, Marshall's not a dog walk in the park. They're not great, but they're to sweep them 4-0 in dominating fashion. I really liked what I saw from Hawaii this weekend.
Wait, stop real fast about Hawaii. We got to talk about this. I think I'm rooting for Marshall to win the Sun Belt now, just to help Hawaii host a regional.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
100%.
Like if Marshall just somehow goes out and wins the Sun Belt, it's going to help Hawaii's cause.
Hawaii's got Wichita State for 4 this weekend, then Northeastern for 4 next weekend. If they can find a way to dominate these next 2 weekends, because I think Northeastern's going to be just fine this year. I think Wichita State's going to win a lot of games. So, hey, Marshall's going to have it 100 to 125 RPI, maybe in the top 100 if they have a couple big wins in Sun Belt play this year. But, hey, Hawaii has a shot. It's not dead yet. You said it. North Carolina passed the eyeball test. Should we bet? I don't know if Jack has any other team before we talk about teams that failed the eyeball test.
Yeah, I've got a couple. I'm glad that you talked about Cincinnati, Ben. I know D1 baseball, and I thought they did it appropriately. I'm not ready to hit the panic button if I'm Duke. Like, I'm glad that they only dropped a couple spots, but we put Cincinnati in and respect the team for going on the road and challenging themselves in the ACC. You're right, Coach Bischel. That was a really impressive weekend. I wanted to talk about them. Oregon State. I mean, like, I know it's like an easy one, like you're a top 10 team, like with a lot of like aspirations of getting back to Omaha, but like, we obviously all understand how difficult their RPI is. So for them to go into Surprise Arizona and take care of business and just dismantle teams, really, like from top to bottom, just dismantle them, just so deep. Whether it was Ava or Caraway, like they're so deep on the mound as well. I thought they were really impressive. But if you guys thought for 1 second that I wasn't going to sit here and brag on the George Mason Patriots for passing the eyeball test. Here's the deal. I couldn't help myself. You're 2 pitches away from sweeping in the jungle. You obviously drop the weekend set. East Carolina wins in winning moments. They go walk-off style and then win another run game. But for a team that, if you remember, shout out to Sean Camp in his first year as the head coach 2 years ago. They win the A-10. They beat Northeastern and Maryland in a regional. Obviously, as a graduate, I've got a lot of pride in that place. But to go into the jungle, and I don't care if they've relocked and reloaded or it's a new ball club, like it's a tough place to play. And I thought George Mason handled himself well with the big fella, James Quinn Iron and company. And a free shout out, our guy, Tyler Nealon, that you guys are both a big fan of. Incredible coach, having a baby. So shout out to Tyler Nealon, girl dad, and absolutely incredible outing in the jungle. Great weekend for the Nealons.
Well, congrats, Coach Nealon. Hey, here's somebody else. If we're doing players to pass the eyeball test, I got 3. Number 1, Rentaro Sasaki. All the preseason hype the guy was getting from number 1 high school baseball prospect in the last 10 years. They call him the Japanese Prince Fielder. He went something like 8 for 12 this weekend with 8 RBIs and 3 doubles off the wall that were just crushed on the line. He was a freak.
Ben, I got to say something. I literally had a tweet in the draft from last night. I just tweeted it about Rintaro Sasaki. Guy, Stanford is a Nike school. He is wearing ASICs. The only player wearing ASICs. Does ASICs control the rights to every single Japanese baseball player? Because there's no way Nike is saying we've got a very, very popular, highly promotable player now wearing our Nike product. Like I wonder what happened in the negotiation, because that's just not going to happen normally. He literally probably told him I'm wearing ASICs.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like an NIL deal or something. I'm not too sure on the specifics.
Like, how crazy is that? You can't just wear your own stuff. The school, whatever school, you're Under Armour, Nike, whatever. He is wearing ASICs. I've never seen that before.
I'll tell you what, if he hits 108 mile per hour backside doubles, they'll let him wear Crocs out there if he wants to.
Exactly. And he's going to be so big for Stanford this year. Like Stanford I'm not going to say finally, because they've had guys in the past, but he's just somebody that you can anchor in the 3-hole or 4-hole in the lineup every game and just know that he's better than every pitcher that he's going to face. Like he really is. Like the way he waits on off-speed pitches, he's always on time. He's going to be so good for so long for them. I'm glad to see he's in college baseball. That's huge for the sport. Somebody else that passed the eyeball test, which I should pass this to Jack, but our boy, Sugar Shane Lewis, is back, baby. After a tough 2024 season, coming off a 27 home run performance in 2023, 3 homers this weekend, and the balls were torched. Swinging with confidence. Love seeing that. He was always, I don't know, he's always been a fan favorite of ours on the show. Like we love Shane Lewis, love the Troy Trojans, and it's scary when he's hot. Like in swinging a confident bat, he makes that team so much better. So good for him. And I hope he continues that the rest of the way. I got to mute real fast. I'm about to cough. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. I think Rintaro Sasaki is going to be a household name by the end of the year. I think he can single-handedly keep Stanford relevant. Some people are now very high on Stanford this year, but I think they're going to just reload. I mean, it's just what they do. That's what David Esquire does out there. Speaking of Esquire, he's got a son that plays somewhere down the road.
Yeah, it's Santa Barbara, right?
Yep.
He had a 3-run. Really nice guy.
Yeah. Hey, what team did not pass the eyeball test?
I have one more player.
Go.
And Jack's got a few players. Can we talk about Dax Whitley of Oregon State? True freshman, just blowing 98-mile-an-hour fastballs by people. He's got a unique arm action. I guess it's kind of the trendy way to throw a baseball now. But what I think is fascinating, and this tweet got over 1 million views. He's from Idaho, like the state of Idaho. Played Idaho baseball, which I don't even know if anybody from Idaho's ever made the big leagues. And maybe I'm wrong.
It's the potatoes.
What?
You eat potatoes, you throw gas. It's very simple.
Good job, Dimitri. But he went 10-0 with a .27 ERA and had 130 strikeouts and 52 innings pitched as a senior. We need to interview one of the players he faced in high school. We got to go find an Idaho high school baseball player that faced him, because that doesn't happen in any other sport. If this is high school football or high school basketball, some academy in Florida or California or somewhere is scooping them up and hey, we will pay for you and your family to move to us, and we will you come play for our team and we'll make it right. But no, this is just Idaho. I'm just going to hang out at my parents' house and throw gas and never have to worry about getting a hit or a run scored off of me.
Imagine waking up at 6 a.m., going to work on the farm, feed the chicken, lay some hay out for the horses, go to class for a couple hours, and then face 98 on Friday night.
Yeah.
Buddy, I'm not playing. These guys are not playing baseball after high school. They're just playing baseball, having a good time working on the ranch. And they're like, dude, I got to face this guy? Well, I guess that's the highlight of most of their careers. Every guy he faced was the highlight of their career.
Yeah. He's a big leaguer, though. I mean, elite stuff. He's gonna be big for Oregon State this year. All right, Jack, what are some players that pass the eyeball test for you week 1?
I think there are 3 guys that I think are all very crucial to their team's success this year. The first being, we talked about North Carolina. I think Gavin Gallagher. We forget, like, he's so young and so good at that hot corner for the Tar Heels. Like, you think moving forward, there's a lot of conversation with a lot of pieces on that team. I forgot how freaking good he is. Second, Brody Donay may have been made in a laboratory. Like, I know we joked about it a lot last year. When I saw him at the Super Regional in Omaha with Florida, like, we forget, like, he's quite literally a defensive end for their football team, and they gave him a bat, and he's just going to hurt people. That's my second. My third, seeing him in person, this guy if this guy hits a 050, he's still going to get drafted. Seeing Jonathan Bastine field it for Vanderbilt at shortstop, throwing 95-mile-per-hour rockets across the infield was an absolute freaking treat to watch. Like, with so many Vandy big leaguers in the building, like David Price was at a couple of those games. Dansby Swanson was at that game because it was at the Cubs, obviously spring training facility. You look at like a guy like Dansby Swanson and Bastine, like the bat's still got a long way to go, but they're going to be big league teams that take this kid high in the draft. If he hits a $110 this year, that's how good the glove was. So seeing that in person was insane.
Love it. Dimitri, who are 3 players for you?
I mean, we talked about Jared Spencer. I think he went from Indiana State, had a little bit of that postseason experience, but to step up in the biggest stage, first start in a Texas uniform, the lights were not too bright in the big league stadium, and he went six shutout innings, six shutout innings against Louisville. It was like clockwork for him. He stepped right into that role really well. Max Wiener had that guy prepared, and I'm excited to see how much better he gets working with Max Wiener all season long. I think he's going to be one of the best. He's going to compete with Jamie Arnold for like one of the best lefty starters in the country on Friday night. So I was really impressed with him because it's not easy. It's really easy to get caught up in the new Texas uniform, big league stadium. Like, it's really easy to get caught up, and he's just business as usual for him. I mean, Stetson's whole line of breaks. I was really impressed with Jaden Hilton. He hit like 3 home runs this weekend for them. Really, really, really impressed with them. Murph Gray got up to a great start with Fresno State. I don't have many guys. You guys nailed them. You guys pretty much said them all.
Hey, can I give us a quick round of applause though? I'm really glad nobody said Jace Laviolette. Hey, congratulations on us. He's really good. Anytime he breathes this year, we're gonna pump the hell out of it, aren't we? As the college baseball world.
He's what I like to call better than the league. All right. Like, he's better than the league he's playing in. And like Gavin Grahovic's not too far behind him. Like, those guys we used to say it with Kyle Lewis all the time. When Kyle Lewis was in the SoCon, it's like, dude, he won the Golden Spikes in the SoCon. He's better than anybody else around, except Jace Laviolette is doing it in the SEC. He's a freak, dude. Like a freak specimen. Plays center field at 6'6", 240. Like, freak. Dimitri, you kind of touched on this, and I wanted to bring this up. We're spoiled with elite left-handed pitching out of the SEC this year. Think about it. Well, okay, I'll say SEC and then also Florida State. They're ACC, but between Jamie Arnold, who I was looking at his advanced metrics and stuff from his chart, I saw the charts. Yeah, that's like unicorn stuff. That's Chris Sale stuff, like right off the bat. Ryan Prager from Texas A&M is going to be really good all year long. Zach Root looked unbelievable for Arkansas on Saturday. Was a big fan of Zach Root. Obviously, we touched on Jared Spencer, and then Cade Anderson from LSU. Cade Anderson's a freak as well. Like, all 5 of those guys, and I'm sure I'm leaving out some as well.
What about Elliott from Ole Miss? He's back from Tommy John.
Hunter Elliott.
Hunter Elliott. Back. I mean, you guys remember him in Omaha 2 years ago. He won them that national championship. That's a
true freshman.
He's got experience. He's got all kinds of experience. He's got it all. And he's back from Tommy John. Looked pretty good this weekend. But that's another lefty starter. There's so many of them in the SEC.
Well, hey, I saw one on Friday night that was pretty dang good. Silenced a good GCU lineup. J.D. Thompson at Vanderbilt was fantastic.
I forget about J.D. Thompson, too.
Hey, what What about Randy Johnson from Florida?
Oh, dude, that's a cheat code too. To have Pierce Capola as your number 3 starter, that's crazy.
You know what's crazy? His college numbers are pretty bad, but his stuff. If you didn't know this stat, you would have thought sub-2 ERA guy for 4 straight years at Florida. But I mean, lefties all over the place in the SEC.
It's a good time to be a left-handed pitcher fan. All right, let's do mid-major top 25. Dimitri, if you pull that up, we can kind of skim through it real quick, talk about the newcomers, and then we will do a midweek preview and we'll get out of here.
I was going to say, are we going to talk about teams that made our eyes bleed this weekend?
Yeah, we can. I can't.
I just want to piss off one fan base. I love them, but I really want to just say one thing.
All right. Who?
They're going to come after me so hard after I say that. Southern Miss won all 4 games. They won all 4 games against a horrific Lafayette team. And I was concerned about them. I was concerned. They struggled all weekend. They blew them out, but I just, guys, when I see a team and I'm just like, dude, they should have scored 30 every game. Like, Lafayette is terrible. And so Southern Miss is going to come after my throat. They're going to end up winning the Sun Belt. They're going to clip this. I'm going to look stupid. But I like hot takes on a Monday morning after the first weekend.
I would disagree with that. I didn't think Southern Miss looked that bad at all. They almost got snuck up on the one game against Lafayette. But you got to remember, like, Lafayette, they've had success recently. Like, they're not a terrible program. Like, good, solid Northeast school.
Ben, they're one of the worst teams in the country.
No, they're not. Are they really?
Lafayette Leopards, we had them in our bottom 10 almost every week for a while.
That was 2019.
They're not good, dude. They're not good.
That was
this. Let's just be honest. To Lafayette fans listening, this has nothing to do with you. You created an entire segment just to piss off one fan base. That's it. You said it up front. This has nothing to do with Lafayette. You came up with a ranking 6 years ago. Has nothing to do with Lafayette. I hope Lafayette wins their conference now.
Me too. I'm rooting for Lafayette now.
I think Jackson.
And not Louisiana Lafayette. Nothing to do with Lafayette up in the Northeast.
It had nothing to do with Lafayette. It was just we put out our mid-major rankings. Southern Miss fans came for our throats, and I just want to find every reason to justify it. That's all it is. This is all a bit. It's just I don't want to justify our ranking and find a way to say Southern Miss is not going to be great this year, so I look smart. If I look wrong, that's fine. But anyway, yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. Southern Miss fans, I'm sorry that that didn't work. That did not work the way I wanted it to.
I think you watched maybe one game of Southern Miss this weekend, and that made your eyeballs bleed because I know what game you're talking about. It wasn't great, but they came back and won the game, walked them off. So
which is what matters, right?
Good teams win. Good teams win.
Win no matter
Anyways,
what.
I'll tell you a couple things that made my eyeballs bleed was thank God they weren't streamed on ESPN Plus, but the William & Mary versus Rhode Island game, 36-22 or 33-22, and then the Indiana State versus Wagner game was 33-1 or 35-1. We got to get better as a country pitching on Sundays. These high-scoring Sunday games are getting out of control.
Hey, shout out to that one tweet. It was so great. The Wagner Bulldogs don't get 25 without responding. They don't what did they say? Something about 25 unanswered. The Wagner Seahawks do not let that go unanswered. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny. I retweeted that so fast. The Wagner Seahawks do not get 26 runs unanswered without responding. So funny.
That's great.
But yeah, dude, I'll tell you this. I think everybody's so far in love with throwing hard on the mound that nobody can pitch anymore. And you see guys on Sunday throwing 92, 94 miles an hour just getting lit up. Let's get back to pitching, guys. Let's get back to pitching.
Yeah, Ohio State did a lot of that this weekend. Good velo, just did nothing with it.
Yeah. Pull up the mid-major top 25. Let's run through it real quick.
There we go.
And then we'll do a weekend or a midweek preview and we'll get out. So I will give Dimitri credit for everything on this mid-major top 25. I was missing in action while he did this, taking a nap, a food poisoning nap, but I agree with pretty much everything. I think there's one team that we might have missed, and that's San Jose State, who went down to Louisiana Lafayette, won 2 out of 3. Don't see them on the list, but I think they deserve to be on the list. But
You have an argument for
anyways,
it?
Dallas Baptist won. Scroll back up to the top. I need to read through this. Dallas Baptist 1, UC Irvine 2, Troy 3, Santa Barbara 4, Charleston moves up to 5, Stetson moves up to 6. That was a big reason because UNCW, they lost a game to Quinnipiac. They went 2-2 at home this week. They did beat Georgia yesterday, which was big for them, but we had to drop them a little bit. Southern Miss at 8. Coastal goes 3-0 in their tournament. They move up to 9. Missouri State, big weekend series win against Sam Houston on the road. They swung the bats really well. Western Kentucky wins both games against Illinois State, who we had to drop from the rankings. Illinois State was in the mid-major top 25. Competitive games, you could probably make a case that Illinois State will be back in the rankings at some point this year. Talented team, but Western Kentucky's the real deal. Tulane sweeps this weekend. East Carolina drops down to 13. 2-1, but the one loss and 2 one-run wins against, no offense, Jack, but George Mason's not a huge statement series win at home. San Diego 0-3 against TCU. Listen, they're still a good team. TCU is just hitting the crap out of the ball. Hawaii 4-0 this week. Liberty. This was where we added in Liberty. I texted Dimitri beforehand. I said, Liberty, they're good. I watched a lot of their games this week. Great broadcast. Just took it to St. John's every single game. This Liberty team lost 30-plus players in the portal after Scott Jackson leaves to go to UNC as an assistant. They bring in just these freak, just jacked guys that they look like middle linebackers. And they just dominated St. John's this weekend. So we moved them from unranked up to 16. Louisiana drops down to 17 after losing 2 out of 3 to San Jose State. Northeastern splits with Charlotte, and then SEMO splits with – who'd they lose to? I forget who SEMO played.
SEMO played
Memphis.
Yep, Memphis.
SEMO splits with Memphis. Georgia Southern sweeps Western Carolina this weekend. They're at 20. Xavier, good showing out in Arizona, goes 2-1. La Tech wins all 4, moves up from unranked to 22. Wichita State loses 2 out of 3 to a really sneaky McNeese team. So Wichita State drops down to 23 in the rankings. McNeese is knocking on the door to get in these top 25. They played really well. And then Little Rock and High Point come in at 24 and 25. Both sweep this weekend. Really impressed with Little Rock sweeping Evansville. They were all close games, but Little Rock can pitch, man. They're a good, well-coached pitching staff.
Jack, any thoughts on that team coming in at number 25?
Best jerseys in the country. Did you guys see those, like the light purple pants?
Ugly.
Gorgeous.
Ugly.
All about Joey Hammond and the fellas, man. They look good, and they were playing good with them. Dress well, test well.
Speaking of jerseys, Arizona State jerseys were unbelievable all weekend. That's the last thing I'll say about Arizona State on this episode. But yeah, so I mean, I think pretty good overall. Southern Miss fans, I just wanted to jab with you. I think you guys are a great team. I think you guys will be just fine. Ignore what I say. Anything I say or do means nothing. Hey, I think Hawaii is going to end up being a top 10 team in this ranking at some point this season. They're good. They have the Cape pitcher of the year from last summer pitching on Saturday, which means they have somebody even better on Friday or more reliable, whatever. So I'm excited to see them. Louisiana Tech, Southern Miss, massive series this weekend. We'll learn about both teams a lot this weekend. We'll see what Southern Miss, I think it's going to tell us everything we need to know this weekend.
Yeah, Louisiana Tech versus Southern Miss this weekend. Huge matchup for both teams. Let's see. Let's do a midweek preview, and then we'll wrap it up here.
I've got 3 to start us off. There's some 3 pretty fun ones, and one to round things out. Before we even look, I know we've got College of Charleston and Coastal Carolina. That game moved from Wednesday to Tuesday. That'll be a blast. Duke, UNC Wilmington's going to be fun. But Dimitri, I think we have another potential wager on Wednesday. SEMO and Austin P Wednesday afternoon in about 11-degree weather. How are we feeling?
I'm interested. I'm all ears. What do you got?
Okay, I don't know. We'll have to maybe the Club Omaha.
Are you concerned about our Stetson Austin P bet?
My concern if you go look at the scoreboard, the Austin P team that's beating Arizona State right now. Are you talking about those Governors?
Didn't they not just start?
The Governors team that beat the Grand Canyon, the bona fide regional team, that Austin P.
The ones that went 3-1 this weekend. That's Stetson.
Great weekend of baseball for Stetson, man. So excited about the opportunity to just contest for a really, really powerful ASUN this year.
1-0 Austin P in the first over Arizona State.
I'll tell you this. We just saw them on the scoreboard for those listening at home. I don't want to compile on it, and I'm usually the really positive guy. I was pretty bummed out that Indiana just kind of like folded like a lawn chair this weekend in that tournament. They're in a 7-7 game right now, and in a ball game they really need to win to find their first victory this season. They were a little disappointing.
Yeah. All right, let's do midweek preview here. Liberty at NC State will be a fun one. Hopefully the weather holds off there. I hear that the weather's supposed to be terrible this midweek, like freezing cold temperatures, some rain across the country. Hopefully we get to see some of these games played. But Liberty at NC State will be good. Let's see. Who else catches my attention?
UNC Wilmington Duke.
How about South Carolina's at Winthrop? That's cool. Good for Winthrop.
It's a fun ballpark.
Yeah. UNC Wilmington at Duke's a big one for both. I think both of these teams are pretty upset with how they played this past weekend. So big matchup there.
You think Wilmington's disappointed? I think a win over Georgia nullifies that loss to Quinnipiac. So I think you walk away from that weekend 2-2. Hey, no big deal.
I think their expectations were 3-1 though. At home,
sure.
You got to assume you're going to win the Quinnipiac game and then split with Georgia. Sure. So I mean, it is what it is. Wake Forest at UNCG. That game's always fun. Like Wake Forest either wins by 20 or they lose to UNCG. Like there's no in between. East Carolina at Campbell.
Guys, Campbell did not.
Oh, here we go. Florida State at South Florida. Look, South Florida played really well and won the series at Iowa. Coach Hanna comes from Indiana State down to South Florida, takes the head coaching job there. They go and win 2 out of 3 when they're picked to finish last, I think, in the AAC this year. So let's see if they have some magic against Florida State. We know Florida State in midweeks isn't great. And speaking of midweeks in state, Jacksonville, 0-3 Jacksonville hosts Florida. Like Jacksonville's going to win this game somehow. Like Florida always loses this game.
Is that a hypothetical dog bet right there?
I mean, Florida always loses this game. Maybe not this exact game, but typically midweeks against in-state teams, they don't play well. Kennesaw State hosting Georgia's big. Wofford Charlotte will be fun. Those are both fun teams. Georgia Tech at Georgia Southern. I might drive over there for that game tomorrow at 6 p.m. Miami FAU, big in-state matchup there.
Southern Miss's schedule is lethal.
Yeah, Southern Miss gets to host Mississippi State, though. And, Mississippi State played really good this weekend. I know it was against Manhattan, but it felt like they had their 3 starters that they loved and trusted for the first time in a long time. They could rely on 3 starters. They all did well. And then the offense was productive. But, again, that was against Manhattan. So we'll see moving forward how that is. Texas State and Oklahoma State in Arlington, Globe Life. There we go. That's fun.
Guys, I love that ballpark in Arlington, but I hate the camera angles. I just can't stand them.
They're too high up. I agree.
I just can't stand the camera angles in that ballpark.
Here's a big one. USC at UC Irvine. USC played really good this weekend. They're a sneaky team there in the Big Ten that nobody's talking about.
Who do they play?
And then Houston at Texas. Houston won 2 out of 3 against Cal. That was a big weekend. And then Troy at Auburn. That's Tuesday. And then let's try Wednesday.
Auburn World Series, guys. I think that's Auburn World Series.
Huh. There it is. There's a big one. SEMO at Austin P. 3 p.m. Eastern.
All right, Jack, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Dinner bet? Dinner bet?
Name the bet.
I said a dinner bet.
A dinner bet?
We can do a dinner bet or we can do a case bet? Like a case of beer or dinner?
How about you guys do an Uber Eats bet?
Oh, now we're talking.
I'll Uber Eats whatever you want during our next episode.
Done.
You eat it on
Done.
Beautiful.
Done. Love that. I love that. Love that. Love that. Great work, Ben.
I love a good Uber Eats bet. All right.
We should call it something.
Xavier at Louisville is a good one. Kansas State at North Carolina. Charleston at Coastal. Hey,
Wow.
Mercer at Kennesaw. Everybody watch the Mercer at Kennesaw game.
Guys, this midweek slate should be in the middle of April or May when it's warm and sunny and gorgeous out. Not now.
Hey, this is a low-key big one. Tulane at Southeastern Louisiana. Southeastern Louisiana is not bad this year, and they always host their stadium suite. They host big games usually, and Tulane comes to town there into Hammond. So big one. Oregon State and Houston play at Round Rock. So how about Houston goes and plays at Texas the day before and then drives up to Round Rock to play Oregon State? That might be a beatdown. Anything else? LSU at Nichols in Thibodaux on Wednesday. Sneaky spot for Nichols.
Hey,
what's up with all the power?
Do what? Wait, what'd you guys say?
Oh, I was just gonna say before we wrap it up, I was gonna show the weekend series that we have for this upcoming week.
Yeah, this one's frustrating. I didn't want one of these series, but Dimitri just begged for it.
That's what?
What
did I do?
We'll talk about it. But yeah, there's one series on here that I think is just too easy. So San Diego at Arizona, UC Irvine at Texas Tech, Louisiana Tech at Southern Miss, South Florida at Georgia Southern, North Carolina, East Carolina, that 3-game series, which is home, neutral, and then Xavier at Liberty. There's one of those that sticks out like a sore thumb, but
just go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it sticks out like a sore thumb and I already attacked the fan base. Go ahead and attack yours.
Well, it's Ben's Omaha team. Ben's Omaha team is in trouble. Ben's Omaha team is in trouble this weekend.
I'm not even acknowledging East Carolina until May. That's going to get hot and warm because nobody's expecting it.
So what happens? What happens when ECU? Obviously, there's going to be a ton of teams that are going to pick that as their survivor. They'll lose, and when East Carolina wins that series, what's that going to say about the George Mason Patriot training out of the A10? All roads lead back to Fairfax, Virginia. Now wait. Regardless of what happens in the George Mason series, if ECU wins that weekend, we have to put GMU in the top 20 mid-major, top 25.
Done. Easy.
Done. All right, cool. All right, good. Thanks.
Done.
Go Pats.
All right, well, let's wrap it up here. We're right at an hour. Jack's girlfriend, Natalie, big fan of the show. She's landing. Her plane's landing here pretty soon too, huh? So you'll get to go see her.
If those have been watching on YouTube, I've been looking at my phone. It hasn't even taken off yet. So I got another 2 hours in the airport, friends.
Wow. Gotta love it. But anyways, we will be back either Wednesday or Thursday, maybe at Club Romaha later this week too, if we can organize it. And that'll be a midweek recap, weekend series pick'em preview, and other fun stuff on the next episode. So we appreciate everybody listening. We will be back. Sorry if there was audio or technical issues. We had to go astray from our normal schedule due to my stomach virus. So we love you. We'll see you guys later this week. Bye.